fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live, episode 80, recapping the second week of the preseason and the third preseason game for the Falcons, among other things today. I'm, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, and I will be joined by special guest Evan Birchfield at some point during the evening. This is his first attempt at running Hangouts, so, have some patience for the guy. He will be joining us as soon as we can get that sorted out. But in the meantime, I am here to entertain you as well. So, folks, I usually ask my host how they're doing, but instead I will ask you the rhetorical "How are you all doing?" Solaire, Don, Tyler Raines, Devin Seege, Debo Williams, James Rogers, all you guys that are kind enough to tune in every single week. I do appreciate you guys coming to hang out. In case you haven't noticed, Adnan is in fact busy. I guess he's, going to classes or something. I don't know. Whatever the excuse is, he's going to be busy with his classes during the evenings on Wednesdays until about October. So in that meantime, we're going to be getting special guests from the Falcoholic and from elsewhere in SB Nation throughout the that time period. So we should have, maybe the elusive hashtag Dave meet at some point. The white whale Matt Chambers, who we still never got. Perhaps we will get him as well. But I will of course continue to be here. All right, let's check on Evan here. All right, let's see. In the meantime, guys, if you do have questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat. I'll try to get to a couple here while I work on getting Mr. Evan Birchfield in here. Apparently he's having some sort of trouble getting into the call. So let's try this one more time. All right. Appreciate your patience. All right. Try this instead. Do battle with the computers. Okay, here we go. In the meantime, guys, like I said, if you have questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. How long do I expect the number one first string to go tomorrow? I don't know. It could be a weird one because they have already played three preseason games. We saw last week that Quinn basically played the starters. There we go. Maybe that was the issue. Can you hear me, Evan?
Yeah.
Perfect. I can see you. I know you can't see me. That's okay. Normal. That's normal. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes. Good job getting that figured out. No one's ever had a problem connecting, so I figured, of course.
I don't know what it was. It kept trying to take me to like an Apple store or something.
Wow. That's just terrible. It wouldn't
actually go anywhere.
Yeah, no Apple allowed here. But I guess I just assumed, it would be cool to send it like literally 1 minute before the show started, and no need for trial runs here.
I don't know why it didn't work.
Yeah, well, no worries. We got to figure it out.
Worked, so.
Yeah, we're good to go. So how are you doing tonight, Evan?
I'm doing good. Let me clear out some of this stuff. I had like so many windows open.
Yeah, I bet. Was it Internet Explorer that fixed it, or was that Twitter?
No, it was at Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know what it was, but I don't have the app for that messaging app we use now. Mm-hmm. So all I did was I went on Facebook and then just sent the link to me via Messenger. Clicked it from that, and maybe that had something to do with it.
Maybe some kind of computer voodoo, something like that. Yeah, but we got it figured out, so we're good to go here. But Well, I believe this is your first time on the show, right?
It is.
Okay.
It definitely is, yeah.
Well, welcome. You're not a true Falcoholic till we get you on video,
Yeah.
so people can know that you're not just a typing robot, just
That's true.
Spamming
Has Matt
articles.
been on?
No, he has promised to come on at least 4 or 5 times. He's like our white whale. We're gonna get him on here
someday.
at one point. Yeah, but we have gotten #DaveMeat to come on, and he's a fan favorite, so I'm sure you'll be a fan favorite as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
So, to kick things off, let's talk about the least favorite thing, which is the injuries. I wanted to give folks an update on the 3 major injuries from last week's game, which were, of course, to DeMonte Casey, Kendall Sheffield, and Russell Gage. Russell Gage is being perhaps the scariest, looking at least. From Dan Quinn, it does sound like none of these are considered to be long-term injuries, which is, of course, a good thing. But it's also, basically none of these guys are probably likely to play the rest of the preseason. Evan, what is your level of concern with these injuries at this point?
Are we live right now?
Yeah. We've been live this whole time. Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were just like,
no.
I didn't know it started.
Oh, no, man. I go live at 8:10.
Everybody.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, sorry,
so calm. Yeah, it was the question was
drinking water, chilling.
Oh no, that's what it is. It's very relaxed here on the show. But yeah,
very nice.
Are you concerned about any of the 3 injuries that happened last week? To the injuries to Casey, Sheffield, and Gage? Any long-term concern there for you?
I mean, the Gage one was the one I was most concerned with, but I'm not really concerned as much anymore because it seemed somebody had a report. It might have been, I believe it was Jason Budd or one of them, that he was considered pretty much like it wasn't anything major or whatever. So that's definitely like, something you want to hear where, I mean, I even mentioned it. It looked like he might have like dislocated his hip, which has ended, NFL careers and stuff. So you definitely didn't want to see that, especially, how explosive he's looked lately. Like even if he came back, maybe he wouldn't have that same explosiveness. But no, I mean, I'm not as worried. Hopefully the good thing with having all these games is it happened fairly early. So it didn't happen in like week 7 of the regular season or whatever. So now we've got time where they can, go easy on them, not throw them right into more preseason games, let them, get healthy during practice and stuff like that. But nothing concerning. The Sheffield thing, I believe, was a hamstring on a punt return, I think.
Yeah.
And, for somebody whose main attributes basically is speed, you never want to see him get a hamstring injury. But,
right.
Like with Gage and stuff, hopefully, it's nothing big. He was grabbing his rib, and apparently that's like a day-to-day thing. So,
yeah,
I'm sure they're going to be smart about it and monitor him and not put him in for games that don't count. So, because, I mean, they're all pretty much safe to make the squad. So they should be fine. But, yeah.
Yeah, the Gage one in particular looked really scary because they brought the cart out and they did all that. And
well, he could barely walk on his own. Like, it looked really bad.
It seems like we really did dodge bullets with a lot of these injuries. KZ basically collapsed after his. That ended up not really being that bad. He was able to stand up and kind of hang out on the sidelines without trainers around him. So that one looks like that one I believe was described as day-to-day. And then Sheffield with his hamstring, they're probably just going to sit him the rest of the offseason to make sure that's healed up. But nothing too concerning. And of course that, kind of segues into other things, which is, a lot of people are asking how long we expect the starters to play this week. And, the concern about the starters getting injured is the big limiting factor in how long starters play. Considering kind of the weird preseason the Falcons have had in terms of already playing 3 games, do you think that we're going to get a rather standard quote-unquote dress rehearsal preseason game on Thursday, or do you expect the Falcons to play the starters a little bit less in this one?
Right. I mean, you kind of hope, as much as I don't, we don't need to see anything more from Ryan, but at the same time, you put him out there, you'd like to see the offensive line protect him better, because if this was the last we saw of Matt Ryan in week 4, obviously, starters typically don't play. We're going into, pretend they don't start him on Thursday night. We're going into the regular season with the assumption of what happened last week, which is him having a great game, but pretty much getting murdered in the backfield because the protection was terrible. Like Ty Sombrero was just getting mauled. So I would like to see a couple. Like, we don't need to see Julio. I don't think we need to see Ryan, but if he goes out there for one series or just, a handful of plays, I won't be mad. I remember one year they had him go in for just like, one or two plays, and then he left. Like, that's fine. Have him go in, throw a little short pass to Ridley, if you even want him out there, and then just call it a day. Let me see who else. You don't mind me looking?
Sure.
Freeman, I mean, you don't really need to see, there's no reason to risk anything there. I'm just looking at the stats from last week. I wanted to see, I'm more interested in those guys who, like, one game you're in love with them, the next game you're smashing your head, because the tight end battle has quietly been really impressive. Austin Hooper's clearly the number one, and it's not even a question, but the depth there has been pretty good. And Graham came out of nowhere last week, had a solid day, and then on top of that, you've got like Alex Gray, who's now eligible to make the roster because he was on the part of that international practice squad like program where basically for 2 years, there's a couple other teams that do it. I think it's maybe just the NFC South, I can't remember, but basically he for 2 years got to be like the 11th man on the Falcons practice squad, but he wasn't actually able to make the roster. But this year he's actually able to make the roster, but he hasn't seen a whole lot of playing time. So I'd like to see more in the last two games out of him. Let's see what else. That's defense. And then the running back battle. Let Brian Hill and Allison and whoever else, let them just go out there and run around and see what happens. Because Freeman's a starter, obviously. Ito, you would say is safe, but we've all of a sudden got this great running back depth, and unless they plan on carrying, 4, running backs, and even you look at like the kick return, punt return specialist position. You hope one of the receivers is going to stand out because there's been rumors that they're going to keep, 7 receivers or whatever.
Right.
You would hope one of them would be the punt returner or kick returner. But quietly, we've got Barner, who, for some reason, I'm looking at last week's stats, didn't even have a carry. No. He's a running back, technically. Yeah. I don't want to take more time and have to go back and look at the other game, but I believe he had a maybe 1 or 2 catches. One went for like 37 yards or something.
Yeah, against the Dolphins.
But I don't think he had any carries that game. So it's like. Mm-hmm. See what he's got. You're running Brooks James, who had 5 carries for 5 yards. Like, why even? We know that dude's nothing against him, but we know he's not making the team. Yeah. See what Barner can do, because he can be a special teams weapon. Right. I don't know. Some stuff like that I'd like to see, but But to answer your question, I don't need to see Matt Ryan, but I'm fine with 1 or 2 plays as long as you got some heavy pass protection there. Hooper doesn't need to show anything, but you can bring him out too if you want. Julio shouldn't even be close to the field.
Julio's not playing. Spoiler alert, folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Ridley, I'm sure he'll come out for a couple plays or whatever. But typically this is the third game where you have a bunch of the starters, but I don't think the Falcons really need to. And then on defense, I'd rather them not risk anything. Yeah. Maybe some more of those guys who are technically starters, but not like Keanu O'Neal starters, Davison. Yeah. Let's see, what else he can do. Because he had a good game last week, but, bring him out. I don't care. Jarrett doesn't need to do anything. Ricardo doesn't need to do anything. But Vic, you want to bring him out for a little bit? Bring him out for a
Make
little
that
bit,
man work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Earn that $13 million,
Yeah, these guys have looked good over the last couple weeks, so... do you want to just completely shut them down? Whatever they're doing is working, and it's been letting them play a little bit. So yeah, I have no problem with that. But what I mean is the big stars, the big names. I don't really see a whole reason to bring him out. But
Yeah.
what do you think?
No, I agree with you. I last week was kind of weird because I couldn't really tell if they were playing the starters for so long because they didn't get to play at all against the Dolphins because they held them out due to weather, or if they were treating last week's game like the third preseason game and it was the dress rehearsal, because the starters played basically the whole first half, and if that basically means now that they're going to sit them this game. But it's hard to say. I mean, I would expect the starters to probably play at least a drive, but I don't know that we're going to see them for the full first half like a lot of people seem to expect, because we got to see them so long last week. I think they're pretty satisfied with that. The one exception might be the first string offensive line, because they got pretty battered by those ridiculous blitzes that the Jets were running. So they might just trot those guys out there to get them some reps, maybe play the first quarter, first half. We're going to see Matt Gono start, which is one of the interesting things. Ty Sombrello is apparently going to be sidelined for Thursday's game, so Matt Gono is going to be the starter at right tackle. So we'll get to see if maybe he looks any better there. I think Sombrello obviously has struggled, maybe a little bit overblown compared to his actual performance. Not all the sacks were on him, but he had a lot of low light plays, we'll say that, of him just getting bowled over, which is gonna piss off the fans for sure. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Matt Gono does. What's your level of confidence in Matt Gono being able to replicate the play of Ty Sombrello, or perhaps even improve on it?
Yeah, I mean, he's not Sombrello. Like, I have no faith in Sombrello protecting Matt Ryan. And this is just preseason, so if you go in the regular season and that's who you've got on that right side, I mean, give Gano a chance. Like, I don't see why not. Like, I'd be, they keep bringing in, they've been bringing in defensive backs, it seems like, left and right. I'd be bringing in more offensive linemen because, I mean, you got Matt Ryan back there, right? So if you're going to have Matt Ryan getting demolished, like, he had a good game and he got hitting the chops the whole time.
Yeah.
I would, imagine if you protected him.
Right. He was dealing on those guys, with them just blitzing like crazy.
He was taking shots, and then when he scrambled on one of them, and I'm like, dude, like, that's cool, but, for that split second, you're, like, excited, but then you're like, wait a second, this doesn't count.
This doesn't matter.
Yeah, so, like, you scrambling isn't doing us anything. Like, we don't need to risk you getting hurt. But, yeah, like, I'm totally fine with letting them battle it out because McGarry, I guess, isn't going to be ready for, a couple weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And we don't even know really what, what level of competition he's going to be at. I don't know. I would be like, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head any free agents that are available, but I'd definitely be looking because Sombrello looks like basically the guy you would want backing up your right tackle.
Yeah.
Like, not really who you want back there starting.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. I think that. Yeah. No, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're exactly right though. Like, I think that Sombrello, his contract was to be the swing tackle basically, and with McGarry's injury, he doesn't have a chance to win the job in camp. So now Sombrello's the starter, and of course, after a strong finish to last season, he just looks like trash in the preseason, which is not as bad as being bad in the regular season, but it doesn't instill a lot of confidence for the fans. Yeah, I mean, I like Matt Gono. I think Gono's been very strong in the preseason, playing against mostly like second string guys, but he is, outside of some penalties, he hasn't given up a ton of pressures. He hasn't been a liability at either tackle spot. He started at left tackle earlier in the preseason and has transitioned to more right tackle, and he looked, I mean, honestly, his development has been faster, I think, than anyone expected, because he was a surprise roster stash last year. The Falcons gave him, I believe, an $80,000 signing bonus as an undrafted player, which is almost their entire signing bonus budget for UDFAs, which was a demonstration of how much they liked his talent, for one, but to have him also make the roster and stay on the roster all season, that was clearly a sign that they liked him, and then for him to look so strong this year, it seems like that faith is paying off, and I think the idea is for him to be the long-term swing tackle on the cheap because, they're not going to probably be keeping Sombrero past this year if this is the level of play we're going to get from him.
You would hope.
But yeah, it looks like also James Carpenter might be available for this week. So he and Jamon Brown were in a pretty fierce competition for that left guard spot. I think a lot of people just assumed that Brown was going to run away with it since Carpenter was out. Do you want to see Carpenter get some reps with the first team in this game, or do you want them to keep Brown in for the sake of continuity?
I mean, I would like to see Carpenter. I don't think I wouldn't, in my head at least, think somebody's technically won the job, but I'm all for letting them battle it out as long as it's not, those obvious positions, like I said earlier, like Matt Ryan, he's a starter, so there's really no reason to, bring him out there and risk injury. Same with Keanu Neal and Ricardo Allen. But like along that offensive line, I mean, the only one I feel, confident in is Matthews and Mack. For all I care, Lindstrom, you in theory are pretty much like, yeah, he's starting. Let everybody else battle it out, in my opinion. I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, and Carpenter is a little bit of an older veteran, a lot more experience. His contract is interesting because the total value is actually higher than Jamon Brown's, but the guarantees are a lot less. So, for instance, the team could basically move on from Carpenter next year and save money, whereas they can't move on from Brown for 2 or 3 years before they actually save money. So it seems like the idea was that they wanted Brown to eventually become the starter, but this year it could be either one. And Carpenter is known more for his pass pro, which is the more difficult of the two, in my opinion, and probably the more important for the Falcons offense. So I wouldn't have been shocked either way if Carpenter ended up winning, but yeah, I'm interested to see if that left guard spot looks a little more stable with him in that role. I do expect that competition to kind of reopen now that he's healthy. So that is definitely one to watch on Thursday if the first string offensive line plays any significant amount of time. But let's see, what's another spot we could talk about? Yeah, I know someone in the chat asked about Calvin Ridley, what we expect him to do tomorrow. I mean, he's going to play with the first string, so it could be a drive, it could be a quarter, it could be as much as the half. I doubt they're going to play that much because of what they did last week.
Didn't Julio say something about the starters playing?
Yeah,
or something.
I think he said something like that, and
I
then
don't know how much he actually knows, but
yeah, I think it really depends. I think it easily could be the half because that's the traditional thing. I think it's probably going to be less because of how much they played last week, but
that's true.
We'll see. I mean, Calvin Ridley is really fun to watch, so I wouldn't mind that necessarily. But I also want, the Falcons wide receiver competition is arguably the most competitive of any battle on the roster, with guys like Olamide Zaccheaus and Marcus Green and Christian Blake, who Cutter loves for his special teams ability. The veteran Justin Hardy is competing there. Holdover, Devin Gray. I mean, there's so many guys there competing. Those guys really need opportunities to prove themselves. Do you have a particular favorite or favorites in that wide receiver battle at this point?
Well, I mean, we pretty much know, unless Gage had like an IR injury, which it appears he doesn't have, that he's pretty much a fourth receiver because he's just outplayed everyone else. I think his name's Zaccheaus, but I'm not even sure.
Olamide Zaccheaus. Olamide Zaccheaus. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try the first name. But he's looked really well. Let me look at some of the other guys. I mean, Hardy, everybody's calling to, get him kicked off. But I mean, there's been talk of them keeping 7, so he would, in theory, make it because of that. The Wharton guy, I mean, he's dropped some like really open passes, and he just looks like a camp body. So I mean, I wish the best for the guy, but I don't think he's gonna make it.
Yeah, C.J. Wharton is the only reason I even know who that is because he's J.J. Wharton's brother from UCF.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is of the one-handed catch fame. So,
exactly.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen any plays that good from C.J. Wharton, but yeah.
Plus, he wears, I think, number 7 too.
Yeah,
it's always weird seeing a 7.
Yeah, it's a cool number. I wish somebody good would take it, we could actually see it on game days every once in a while. But I do.
Gray right now too, though.
Yeah. I do like Gray as well. Gray kind of has been quiet all preseason except for last week where he finally started making some plays. He was a holdover from last year's practice squad. The team really does seem to like Christian Blake. He hasn't been like overly impressive in terms of his catches, but he plays on almost all the special team snaps. Cutter has basically indicated that he really likes Blake's special teams ability. So I think if we had to pick one undrafted guy who's probably got the leg up, it's likely to be Blake because they trust him on special teams, and he's just a solid guy. I think he's a little bit more athletic than Justin Hardy and has kind of the same skill set. But we also know Hardy plays special teams, and he clearly knows the offense and is pretty reliable, even if he can't really separate. So he's got some value. But personally, I would prefer they keep someone like Olamide Zaccheaus over Hardy because I think his long-term upside is a lot better. Zaccheaus can be a field stretcher. He has some of that gadget play ability. He has some kind of return ability too. But yeah, it's really tough because if you're keeping 6 and you think they're going to keep Marcus Green as the returner, then there's really only one other spot, which is probably going to be Christian Blake, if we're being honest with ourselves. But if they keep 7, then it's wide open. But I'm personally not entirely sure Green is a roster lock. What are your thoughts on Green's chances of making the roster at this point?
Yeah, I just don't see where he's shown enough to be a lock right now, because when you look at who would you take off the roster for him,
right?
Because you're not going to remove any of the running backs, and then at receiver, I guess if you went with 7, and this is just trying to play in Green's favor, you'd have Julio, Ridley, Sanu, obviously, Blake, and then
pick your poison of the other guys, and no, you didn't say Hardy already, so it could be Hardy, could be Zaccheaus, could be Gray,
and I guess Green would be that 7th guy, but I think you've seen too much out of Gray and Zaccheaus, and even Hardy really, I think, has shown Green hasn't really done anything aside from try and return a couple kicks. Or
punts. He's only gotten 2 snaps as an actual receiver.
That's, shocked the world or anything. So I guess he'd be you put him on practice squad or whatever. But
yeah, I think a lot of people think
I don't
he's
think he's worked out as well so far. But there's still 2 games, so who knows? I could be eating crow next week. He could take 2 back to the house.
Exactly. Everything changes at that point. Yeah, he's been injured, so he got injured in the Hall of Fame game, then missed the next game, and then just came back for the first time last week. So he's kind of been a little bit of an invisible man. But yeah, I think his path to the roster is to prove that he's as good a returner as Barner. And if he's on par with Barner, they'll probably keep Green just because he's a draft pick. And it seems like, they invested a 6th rounder in him, which is a little bit more than a dart throw. So, I think they would prefer to keep Green, all things being equal. But at this point, I feel like Kenyon Barner's been more impressive. Neither one of them has had a lot of opportunities, but we know we could trust Barner as a returner. He could catch a few passes out of the backfield, that sort of thing. But I think long-term Green's upside is intriguing as a gadget player. Maybe a Taylor Gabriel light, somebody that could eventually have a role like that. But he's coming out of, I think an FCS program or a smaller school. The level in competition, that jump is pretty significant. So it's not that surprising that he struggled to open camp, but he's going to need a strong showing, I think, over these final 2 games to prove that he deserves that roster spot. You did mention the tight ends earlier, which is an interesting battle for sure, because I think we all assumed that Saubert was a roster lock. And even though he didn't have any flashy plays in the preseason, I don't think anybody thought he was bad. His blocking had improved over the years, and he's always had that kind of Latin athletic ability that's been tantalizing, even though it's never really been utilized successfully. And then they just traded him away basically for nothing, which was them saying we were going to cut this guy. But what we've seen in the meantime is that Jaden Graham looks really good. So what are your thoughts on Jaden Graham? Do you see the Falcons keeping 3 tight ends, 4 tight ends? Does Graham replace Logan Paulson as the third guy? I mean, what are your thoughts on that tight end battle right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather see him as the third tight end. Like I said, I need to see more because he just kind of exploded out of nowhere. I still want to see Gray, as I mentioned earlier. I think you would like to. He was coming from, England, and I don't know how much experience he had previously.
Right, like rugby.
I think he was like a rugby player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know what how many years he would need to study, but he studied an NFL team basically for 2 years, with no real pressure because he was pretty much guaranteed that practice squad spot, and even if he played lights out, even if he was like the second coming of Tony Gonzalez, he couldn't be on the roster. So he's had all the time to prepare and stuff. But, I mean, last week he had 2 catches for 15 yards. I mean, that's not, I would like to see more, only 2 targets. But he's been the guy who I've been, even before preseason, I was like, this could be a sleeper on the team. Graham has silently became that dark horse who could technically make it as a third tight end, I think. Paulson, I mean, you're pretty much just keeping him for his blocking. I would prefer Graham because I know how, Matt Ryan likes to use tight ends. But I mean, if you got Sambrelo getting beat and he's your starter, you might need Paulson to help chip over there. So,
right.
But I mean, I'd prefer Graham right now if I was doing because the potential's there. Paulson's a veteran, which is cool and all, but Graham, he's so young. He could, who knows what he could turn into.
Yeah.
But he was the one that actually hurdled that one dude.
Yeah, he jumped that dude. Yeah, I mean, that was crazy.
If you got a guy who can jump over another human being while playing football, I don't see why you would get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm going to find a roster spot for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was impressive, even for preseason. Just to think you're running and something in your brain tells you, a lot of people playing this watching this have probably played football, but I can say I've never jumped over somebody while playing football.
Never successfully.
Yeah. I always think how it could go wrong. If for some reason that guy didn't go low, you're going to look foolish. But, I mean, he did it. And
yeah.
But, I mean, to answer your question, I like him. So, I mean, I'd give him that spot. But
yeah. Yeah, that's one of the more interesting roster construction questions for those of you that are really into the nitty gritty of how many of X position are they going to keep and what does this mean and all that is 3 or 4 tight ends because the Falcons have generally kept 3 under Dirk Cutter. They generally kept 3. They kept 4 a couple of years ago when they had Josh Perkins as the 4th guy, but generally it's been 3. I think when we saw them bring back Logan Paulson, a lot of people assumed that meant they were going to keep 4 because they gave Paulson a little over $1 million, which is, that's not nothing. But with Jaden Graham looking so impressive, and I don't quote me on this exact stat, but I'm pretty sure Jaden Graham has more catches and receiving yards in this one preseason than Eric Saubert in his entire career. So, which is a shame because I really liked Saubert. I think a lot of people did. He was known as a hard worker and just a nice guy, but just could never really seem to put it together as a receiver. So, Jaden Graham.
He's going to become Gronk.
Yeah, now he's the next Gronk. So, congratulations,
Can you
Falcons.
imagine even if he's half as good as Gronkowski?
Oh my God! If he's
what the fan base will do.
If he's New England's starting tight end, it's going to burn down Flower Branch. Yeah, it's crazy.
Because honestly, you could have me out there playing tight end, and Belichick would figure out a way to give me 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, somehow.
But, I mean, it could happen. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. He's their type of player, and let's get this straight, folks. The Patriots don't hit on every player they sign. It is much to your disappointment probably, but they cut players they bring in a lot. It doesn't always work out, but one of the things that I do appreciate about the Patriots is they're not afraid to try bringing in some people and see if they work out because the reward is worth their time, and sometimes it does work for them.
Look at Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Everybody saw that as a risk, but I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head what they got rid of for him. But they didn't know he was gonna, he's on the inactive list or whatever because of his off the field stuff. But when he was on the field, it was working.
So, yeah.
I mean, take those risks. That's something we usually don't do. But I mean, you can see that as a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. We all know that the Falcons are cowards, and most of the NFL are cowards. So
yeah, I didn't want to say it.
So it's not all that surprising.
So I'm gonna let you say it.
Yeah. A lot of people are cowards, but remember, guys, the Patriots did draft Jordan Richards. They also got a 7th-round pick back for him. So from us.
And then who's the idiots who?
Wait, who traded for him again? Oh, it was us. That was a cell phone. Yeah.
But at least we didn't start him, right?
Yeah, I mean, not over Sherrod Naismith, who's actually like a solid player. Yeah. For like half a season. God, Jordan Richards was so bad. Like, I don't know how any sane coach could look at that man play football game after game and be like,
and want to start him,
and then be like, well,
continuously.
I know we have like a proven guy who's solid on our roster, but like Jordan Richards, I mean, he's here, so might as well play him, right? I mean, we gave up a conditional 7th, so.
Yeah.
My goodness, it was bad.
I don't even want to think. Last season, I don't even want to think.
Yeah, we're gonna just forget about that one and move on. Yeah, I mean, overall, Falcons' offense was pretty disappointing last week. Outside of Matt Ryan, who was amazing under like constant pressure, really like him playing with all these bad offensive lines over the years has made him like just a magician in terms of navigating pressure.
Yeah.
So I guess that's good. Hopefully, we can just get him some actual protection, and then he'll be able to just really light it up. But yeah, we talked about the tight ends and the receivers, the offensive line. Danny Etling didn't get any snaps, so we can't really talk about him. Matt Schaub was fine again, so the panic about backup quarterback has subsided. Yeah,
I was one of those people who's like, "What did we just watch?"
Oh yeah, no, I called that game. Okay, I saw that; it was terrible. That was a bad game.
10 yards, right? 10
oh yeah,
yards.
he was negative almost until the very end of the game. So.
And he had like 14 attempts. I still don't know how that
I don't
happens.
know,
but he's had 2 good games.
Oh yeah, yeah. So apparently it's all fine. We don't have to worry about it, but we're just gonna pray for Matt Ryan's health every day, as we always do, and we'll just hope for the best there. Yeah. But on defense, I thought the first team defense, outside of their customary like look really bad on the first drive type thing, which is a tradition, they actually looked really good. Desmond Trufant, I think, was the best player on the field. He was just flying around making tackles and breaking up passes. He had a tackle for loss. I mean, he was playing extremely well. He was a really impressive player to me. Who to you was someone that really stood out on defense last week?
I mentioned him earlier, but Davison.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we have pretty good depth at defensive tackle. So I guess, in hindsight, how we were all freaking out because we weren't going to be able to get Ed Oliver, that was kind of for nothing. But I mean, there was one play where you had to look it up because I'm not going to be able to do it justice. But he basically like bobbed and weaved his way into the backfield and broke up the play. He looks good. I mean, he started for New Orleans, right? For like 2
he was their like premier nose tackle. He was the guy that they always played there.
Quietly, the best move, I guess you could say, the Falcons made this offseason. But I mean, he stood out to me the most. I mentioned it on the post game with DW that it's kind of interesting how Sanat is not really being used a whole lot.
Yeah.
Which we obviously wouldn't know the answer to that. It could be something in practice or whatever, but it doesn't seem like he's getting a whole lot of use. Jarrett and Jack Crawford are getting about what they should because they're starters, so they're not being like overplayed or anything like that. But yeah, to answer your question, the guy who's really stood out to me is Davison, and you always look at the new additions to your team and stuff, and and then Austin Larkin. I think that's his first name, Austin Larkin.
Yep.
Came out of nowhere, has like the ugliest number because it's like 61 or something.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like he looks like he should be bad, and he's looked pretty good. I'm not saying he's like gonna make the roster or anything, but he's quietly opened some eyes on defense, I would say. So those would be the two I've pretty much taken a notion to.
Yeah, I think Davison arguably had the play of the game when he busted through the line and suplexed that guy. So that was a fantastic play. That's what you like to see from your run-stuffing nose tackle. that you didn't have to spend pick 18 to get in the draft, Dexter Lawrence fans. So just got to call those folks out. You guys were wrong. Yeah, another guy that I know folks in the chat are bringing up is Jermaine Grace, who I've been a big fan of Grace since we brought him back. And this is now 2 straight games where he's been the most impressive linebacker. Followed closely by another undrafted guy in Delshon Phillips, who has also been pretty good. But Grace, he's just clearly the best linebacker in coverage outside of Deion Jones. He's got that athleticism that they like. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but we know the Falcons don't care. So, me personally, I'm keeping Grace over Riley, and it's not close. But,
definitely.
Yeah.
I was sad to see him go the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the move. I believe we kept Weatherspoon over.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
how it was like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Which Weatherspoon at that time was on his last leg, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But, in hindsight, I'm glad we got him back because he went to, I believe, Indianapolis.
Yep.
Then he may have went to the Seahawks, like briefly or something. I should probably look that up.
Yeah, but he bounced around a little bit.
I'm just thinking,
and I was but we were both
went to like those two.
He did, yeah, and we were both happy to see him back because he really is the type of linebacker that they like, that they really want on the roster. He's that kind of mold. Yeah. I think that he's going to make the team. I really hope that they don't keep Duke Riley over him. I personally think Duke Riley's time is over. Like, he hasn't shown anything in 3 off seasons now. He got a chance to start last year and got outplayed by a 6th rounder and like an 8-year veteran that we picked up off the street in Bruce Carter, who's probably also making the roster because he's reliable. So
they got rid of Stephon Anthony, or however you say.
Yeah, Stephon Anthony. Yeah. My greatest draft bust. My greatest draft miss, Stephon Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he only played 1 game, right?
I think it was 2
on like a Wednesday.
He came in right before the game in the second preseason game, and then he played this last one too. But
apparently they didn't see anything from him. So.
Yeah, he didn't really do all that much. He got outplayed by Delshon Phillips, an undrafted rookie. So I guess you can say my draft take is never going to be redeemed. But that's okay. I've moved on from that. That's an L. I'll take that L. But I think our linebacker group is fine. I know some people were a little bit worried about that. I think most people are worried about the cornerback group, but like Desmond Trufant looked great. I think Isaiah Oliver's been solid. And then as long as KZ is healthy to start the season, I'm not concerned. But I know a lot of fans are. Are you concerned about the cornerback group? Or are you cautiously optimistic? What's your thoughts there?
No, I'm not personally nervous, but you have to take note that after the first 2 games, they were constantly dumping people and bringing in defensive backs only. Trying to think off the top of my head. You can go on the Falcoholic and look at all that 1 week. It seemed like every day, even there was like 2 or 3 times during the day where we got rid of somebody. Like we got rid of our backup long snapper, brought in a dude, and then the guy from UCF we got rid of.
Yeah.
And then what is that guy with the cool name? Hemp Cheevers?
Yeah, Hemp Cheevers, man. He messed up that one play.
Yeah. But they were getting rid of anybody who screwed up.
Oh yeah.
That's the one big thing. Notice this preseason is you get 1 chance. If you screw it up, because I can't remember the guy's name, but during the first game, he went up, it was during the first game where it was 4th down, he had the pass interference, and then the Broncos basically were able to get back in the game.
Yeah,
and
Rashard Causey, the UCF guy.
Oh, was that the UCF guy? Okay, because they got rid of him instantly, and then Hemp Cheevers, I believe it was, had threw it right into his chest.
Yeah,
he dropped it.
Yeah,
could have been a defensive touchdown. Boom, he's gone.
Yeah,
they're not playing around, and it's been at the defensive back position. It seems like. But, I'm fine, but apparently there's something else going on.
Yeah, and it doesn't really make sense to me that they're shuffling so much at defensive back because, I think the 6 guys that are going to make the roster have been settled, this whole offseason. I don't think there's really been any competition, really, to bleedy Ray Wilson for that last spot. So, they're not getting rid of either of the rookies. They're going to keep, Sheffield, obviously, and, what's his name? Jordan Miller. Those guys aren't going anywhere. And then Bleedy Ray Wilson can play all 3 cornerback spots and has been solid anytime we've had him on the field. So, like, he's probably not getting cut for any undrafted guys either. So, like, and then they keep shuffling these defensive backs. So it's like none of these guys are probably making the roster. So maybe they're just really trying to get some quality competition on the practice squad.
Or just trying to find a diamond in the rough. Why not? These games don't count. So.
Exactly. But yeah, I do like Chris Cooper, who had to fill in. He was the third guy up at nickel after KZ and Sheffield went down, and I thought he was fine. He could play a little safety too, so he's kind of like a dark horse for the roster as a 5th safety. But yeah, I mean, Jalen Myrick has had some success in the past as like a corner. He has practice squad eligibility. I do like the Georgia guy, Jason Stanley, as like a CJ Goodwin type stash. Wide receiver to corner convert. He's only gotten a handful of snaps a game, but he's broken up passes, and for a guy who's played wide receiver up until this point, I'm pretty impressed with that. So we'll see which direction they decide to go in terms of keeping someone on the practice squad. But they have some talent, for sure. Yeah. Golden Heart 05. Please, God, can we cut Harlow? Yeah.
Didn't they say they were moving him to center?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it matters where you move him. I think he's just bad. I think he can't pass protect. He couldn't pass protect in college either. It's been 3 years. He still can't pass protect. So I think you got to cut bait with that one.
I mean, because he came back, right? He went to someone. Was it the Colts again?
I don't think it was the Colts. I feel like it was Cincy, but maybe I'm getting that confused with Brian Hill.
Brian Hill, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, he went somewhere else briefly. And then they were like, oh, God, I know why this guy got cut. And then he came back because, why not? It's like training camp. But, I really don't know what they saw on him. He was not even that impressive as a college offensive lineman, in my opinion. But, I guess for these last 10 minutes or so, we could talk about this upcoming game. Are there any guys that you're really looking to see? I know you're a super big Matt Bryant fan. I guess we should talk about the kicking situation. So, what are your thoughts, after seeing Tavecchio early, struggle a bit? Are you basically at the point where you're like, they need to call Bryant right now, or are you still a little bit patient, or, where are you with this whole situation?
I mean, if I was running the team, I wouldn't have let go of Matt Bryant. But in the situation they're in right now, use the rest of these games to, if he comes out and he shanks more next week, and then the next week he's still on the roster and he shanks a bunch, then obviously you make a move. I'm just basing it not off what I think, because like I said, Matt Bryant would still be on the roster. I'm thinking what they're thinking. Or what I think they're thinking, which would be, you're hoping, because next week doesn't count, and then the next week doesn't count. So you can use those games as trial periods. If he's still missing, I mean, you can use the excuse that it's just preseason for like offensive and defensive positions. But I mean, when it comes to the kicking game, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, it doesn't really matter a whole much. But the problem is with quarterbacks and kickers, I mean, you can make an argument for other positions, but those are really mental positions where if you think you suck, you can have the most talent in the world, but you can be the greatest kicker ever born. But if you think, oh no, I'm screwing up, you're going to struggle. Like, it's such a head game. That's why coaches, in recent years, or at least the last decade, they ice the kickers, because they know they can become a head case. If they think, it's like, if anybody here golfs, if you're golfing and you're like, there's no pressure, you're fine. But all of a sudden you got somebody watching you, or you're trying a different swing, or, you're thinking about, okay, I need to make contact with this ball and I need to hit it this certain distance. You could screw up. Yeah. And I think, especially he's only 29 years old, I believe, and that's pretty young. I think they want him to be the kicker of the future. It makes sense on paper, but like you said, I'm a Matt Bryant believer. The way the injury thing doesn't really bother me, because of, the injury prone thing gets thrown around a lot, but he only missed in the last 3 seasons, 3 games. It's not like he's been constantly injured. And then, his hamstring thing, I believe he injured it making a 57-yard field goal, which, I don't know what else he could have done there.
Right.
People
he had to go all out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's obviously kicker position, your leg's important. But like if Matt Ryan gets older and he hurts his shoulder, I'm not going to be the one, saying, "Hey, let's get rid of Matt Ryan. He's got a hurt shoulder and he's a old quarterback." Like, you got to at least see what they can do. And Matt Bryant, people forget, he came back and won the final game of the season for us, the Tampa Bay game. I can't remember what, I think it was like 40-yarder or something, but he was able to kick it. The thing that's worrying me right now with DeVecchio is his kicks are not going in that are like over 50 or even over a couple, 40. I think his longest probably is like a 38-yard field goal. I can't remember. But what we're used to with this this type of offense is, a lot of the Matt Ryan's thought of as like the greatest quarterback in Falcons history, and he deserves it. But how many of those games were actually won by Matt Bryant's leg? Like, they have a mutual relationship, even if they're never on the field together. Actually, yeah, they're never on the field together. They actually go hand in hand. Matt Ryan gets Matt Bryant into position. Matt Ryan gets the glory, but Matt Bryant won the game. And that's kind of off the charts now, because in the past, if we needed a 50-yarder and Matt Bryant was back there, maybe you were a little nervous, but you weren't anywhere where you're going to be with DeVecchio this season, where it's like you need to get up into like the 30s or 40-yard range to even feel safe, because if it's a 50, it's going to be a crapshoot. And we've been spoiled as fans to where, you're so used to it. It's the only other place I can imagine that feels the same way is like Baltimore with Justin Tucker.
Right.
It's like you have that feeling of, oh, we're going to be fine because this person's back there. And that's how we felt with Matt Bryant. But now we're back with everybody else who struggles, and go through kickers like the Browns were, the Bears, where they're trying all these young guys. And I think right now, another argument people make is that why isn't he on a roster? Because he wants $3 million. And, right now teams are dealing with injuries. They're not going to want to invest a crap load of money into a kicker position that like I said, the games don't count. That's how I would justify it, because if you follow him on Twitter, he put videos yesterday and he it was like a practice session at, I think, like Southern Alabama or something. But he made a 53-yarder, and it could have went in from like 56, 57. I mean, keep in mind, he didn't have 300 pound guys charging him or anything, but he's got the legs still. Can he do it over season? I think so. I would take that risk. At worst, he gets injured, and then you have to do like a Shane Graham thing where you bring somebody else in. It's just I don't agree with getting rid of the most accurate kicker, or 8th most accurate kicker in NFL history, and your franchise leading points leader, who went 20 of 21 last year. Had his best career percentage in his career, in his what should be Hall of Fame career. But obviously kickers, you got to pretty much win a game-winning Super Bowl kick to get in the Hall of Fame. But I don't agree with getting rid of that, because the dude made 5 kicks. Like, kudos to him, but he's not doing it now. That's my issue with the whole thing. But I understand both sides. It's just I'm pro Matt Bryant, so I'm leaning that way, obviously. But if the Falcons, I'm a Falcons fan first, so I want the team to win. I think Matt Bryant's what you need to win. But if you go the DeVecchio route, you got to be patient with them as fans, because the team's all in, it seems like. And if we know how Dimitrov and them work, they're stubborn, and they're not going to admit failure, admit a mistake, and be like, you know what, we were wrong, we shouldn't have got rid of Bryant. So I think they'll ride DeVecchio out unless he just comes out these, like I was saying earlier, these 2 last games and just completely shanks it all over the place. But what they're hoping is everyone will calm down, because he'll come out and make a 50-yarder or something, and it'll be okay. But I mean, we're going to have to be patient this year, because he'll probably, chances are, lose us a game or two, and people will be grabbing the pitchforks like they were after, not even after, during last week's game. But yeah, I'm just kind of rambling on at this point.
No, I get it. Yeah, no, I mean, basically with the decision that they've made, it's that you have to ride it out at least these last 2 games. Like, you have to see how he does these last 2 games. And like if he goes like 5 of 5, over these last 2 games, hits all of his extra points, then like no one's gonna care. Like it'll be fine. Like these earlier games are gonna be forgotten. Like that recency bias is gonna be his friend if he ends up playing really strongly to close out the preseason. But if he keeps missing kicks, like the Falcons are gonna be at a point where they have to make a decision. And it's really going to depend on Matt Bryant at that point, because I don't think that they necessarily can afford to pay him $3 million. So it's like, well, is he willing to take less? Is he willing to come back to the Falcons after they spurned him? And I'm of the mind that I think that the team and Bryant can have like a come to Jesus moment and get it together if it was absolutely necessary. But it's still a little too early to determine if that's the case. I think it's on the table if he really struggles, but like Tavecchio's missed 3 kicks, all from greater than 50 yards, and 1 was tipped. And statistically, kicks from greater than 50 yards are generally they're a little over, I think, like a 60% hit rate. So right now, like the sample size is so small that we could be looking at like an anomaly here. Like if he hits 4 50-plus yard kicks over these last 2 games, then that will even out his numbers and it'll look like a normal kicker. But it's just really hard to tell. But the Falcons so far have done the right thing. Like they've said, we're confident in him. There's no issues. This isn't going to be a Bucks for Roberto Aguayo situation where they just ruin the kid by making him compete a bunch of times and like expressing how like upset they are with him. Like we're not going to pull a Bears and just throw Cody Parkey out the door because of a tipped kick in the playoffs. Like this is an amateur hour. The Falcons have proven that they know how to find kicking talent, and I think that they trust Tavecchio. I am kind of with you. Like I don't know that they needed to move on from Bryant. I think that they felt that the end of his career was probably coming, and they needed to save the cap, particularly for 2020. And I think it was a tough decision either way. I mean, me personally, I think Bryant would have been the safer choice, but teams are always trying to make the cut a year early instead of a year late. So,
but I'm just saying, like if I was running things, I wouldn't have moved on from him. Or at the bare minimum, let him battle it out in the preseason. Like that's where I would have been. But I get, trying to save some money here and there. I think there's other positions, especially now in hindsight. Now we've seen a couple games under our belt that I would have, trimmed some fat instead. But like you said, would he want to come back? I mean,
we have to talk. You have to talk to him. It seems like he wants to play. So.
I mean, there's stuff I can't say, but like, I mean, I would hope so. That's all I'm going to say. But no, I mean, it's one of those things where, let me think how to word this. When we enter the season, it's already an issue, the kicking game. So fans are already looking at it, especially after last week. Going into next week, it's going to be one of those, I would hope fans would look at other positions, but obviously anytime he's going to be in a situation to kick, people are going to take notice of it. And if he, like I said earlier, I'm a Falcons fan first. I've been a Falcons fan since I was 6 years old, when I pretty much didn't even know what football was. But, I would try to watch it and all that stuff. And, as I've gotten older, I've grown, more accustomed to actually like the fine print stuff of the sport. And it's like I've grown, you grow to love this team, and you've like, I don't remember, I mean, I do remember Jason Nealon, but I'm pretending like I don't. It feels like Matt Bryant's been kicking for us forever, and it's hard. It's going to be, for me, it's like, getting rid of when Matt Ryan's done. It's just it sucked. It sucks to see somebody else back there. So I don't want people to think I hate Tavecchio. Like, I want to win a Super Bowl. So if Tavecchio is going to kick it, kick us there, by all means, go for it. But I also, I appreciate what Matt Bryant's done for us. If he's going to, want $3 million, I don't know. I'm not a cap guy, so you'd have to ask one of our other, probably you even, better writers, how that would work and who you'd have to get rid of and all that stuff. But what, what I'm secretly hoping is that they're going to bring him back before then. But I think he could be, there's going to be other teams sniffing around, and I can guarantee that there have been teams calling him, because the kicking position, at least in recent years, has been such a big issue league-wide. There's probably 4, if your life was on it, there's probably 4 that you would put bet your life on that would make a 40-yard kick even. I'm not even going to say 50. You go with a 40-yard kick.
Yeah.
Like Justin Tucker, Gostkowski, but, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like Vinatieri, Justin Tucker.
It's one of those positions where we've been so used to it that we think you can just move on and be like, hey, let's just grab the younger dude and he'll be fine. No, he's going to have learning pains or growing pains, and he's going to have to overcome these obstacles of missing kicks. That's the one thing with Matt Bryant is I think there was one game where he missed 2, and it was because he was injured. I can't remember what it was, but it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
This
doesn't happen. Yeah.
You're looking up in the sky to see if a meteor is coming down, because that's just not stuff we're used to. That's apocalypse stuff. But now that's going to be a regular thing, at least if the preseason shows anything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll come out and, kick a 90% season, and that would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
but
it's still pretty early, but yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, if he struggles and he, his kicking percentage is 70%, which is maybe good for some teams, but it's not going to be good for what we're used to.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty interesting, because I'll say before week 2, I would bet anything Matt Bryant's on a roster. I can't guarantee which one or anything, but I would pretty much assume he's going to be on a roster. So we may not even have, like you said, if he even wants to come here or come to Atlanta, I'm not even sure that's a possibility. He may, because the way I wish if they were moving on from him, that was the part that hurt me the most. And I don't want to keep taking up more time talking about Matt Bryant.
No, that's fine.
But the thing that bothered me the most, and I think it probably, if you think about it, bothers a lot of Falcons fans, is the way it happened. There was really no sign of it. It's we knew he was injured and they liked Vecchio and stuff, but it's he came back and finished out the season. If they would have been hey, this is Matt Bryant's last year and then we're getting rid of him, and then his final kick, that would have made his final kick that much more legendary, making a game he went out how he kicked his whole career for us, winning the game against, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, if you ask Tampa Bay fans, they think they've been cursed by Matt Bryant because they got rid of him, because they've always had kicking problems. And it happened against that team, and that would have been I would have still been a little sour, man, we shouldn't have got rid of him, but it would have at least felt right. It just seems like they just kicked him out the door, and they're just
yeah.
Most points in our franchise's history, I would expect more, because when Matt Ryan's done and Julio's done, they're going to get that red carpet treatment, which I don't think he got.
Right.
So that's kind of, because if I was him, I'm not going to curse on your show, but I'd be screw y'all. I'm not coming back. I'm sure he's getting other offers somewhere else, but that would hurt me if I was somewhere for 10 years and they just kind of booted me out.
Yeah, he deserves the red carpet treatment.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But, apparently not.
Yeah. So obviously the way it ended didn't sit right with a lot of fans, myself included, yourself included. So we'll see if a potential reunion is in the future. It would probably be right after the final preseason game if Vecchio's struggled. I don't think they're going to be able to wait any longer than that if they actually want a chance at getting him back. But yeah, I happened to do an interview today with Morton Anderson, another legendary Falcons kicker, and his thoughts. A little spoiler. Yeah, Hall of Famer, one of 2 kickers to be in the Hall of Fame, and his thought was basically to Vecchio, young kickers, you need to give them you need to be patient with them, and it's mental more than anything. Like, a lot of these kickers are really talented, but the mental aspect of the game is something that the casual fan just doesn't necessarily understand, especially with kicking, because kicking is one of the most psychologically demanding positions of any in sports, because the sample size is so small, the opportunities you have to prove yourself are so limited, and the amount of pressure that you're under, because everyone's looking at you, and it's one motion, one kick, a lot of times that determines games. It's just a very demanding position, and it's tough to adjust to, especially when you either come in as like a really high draft pick like Roberto Aguayo, or when you're trying to fill the shoes of like a franchise legend like Matt Bryant. I mean, it's a lot to put on your plate. So, basically the moral of the story is let's give Tavecchio a chance this preseason to prove it. But at the end of the day, like if we're leaving the 5th preseason game and Tavecchio's missed a bunch more kicks, then I think that we need to really consider bringing back Matt Bryant, because I think a lot of us think that this is a Super Bowl contending team, and to lose it on kicking definitely would be pretty disappointing.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like we created a hole that wasn't actually there. Yeah. But, nothing we can do now. Team made their decision, and
we'll just have to see how it plays out.
See what happens.
Yep. So we'll see. It could be interesting in 2 weeks. Either Tavecchio is playing really well, and it's like, oh, okay, well maybe it's fine, or like he's been really bad, and it's like, okay, Matt Bryant, please take me back.
Yeah, and I mean, in that situation too, it's like, then Matt Bryant didn't get any preseason work, which, might be good. It's kind of like a Tony Gonzalez treatment, where you just don't even let him do anything the whole offseason. You just bring him out when it matters, and that might be fine. I don't know. But, it's going to be interesting to see how it falls. Hopefully for the team's sake and winning, Tavecchio just like comes out and he's like last year. But, as I said earlier, it's a mind game. So clearly, if you watched any of those post-game interviews, the first kick was blocked, or the
tipped or whatever.
Tipped, which you could say maybe it was low. I don't know. I wasn't like on the angle side of it, but and then it seemed like I'm not a kicker, a professional kicker, obviously. So, but it seemed like he pushed it, like he was trying to put too much into it. And I keep making the golf analogy because I golf a lot, but it kind of has that same feel where you have to make contact with the ball a certain way, because even if you hit the ball, it could go flying off into the woods. Like, it doesn't matter if you hit it, you have to hit it like a certain way and stuff, which with kickers, if they don't make the contact where they need to, it'll shank. Yeah. And it seemed like it was that same situation where he's like, okay, I get a second attempt, because I believe both of them, you'd have to look it up because I can't remember, but I believe both of the attempts he missed were exactly 52 yards. Yeah. Both of them, which is just a coincidence. But he, tipped the first one. Second one, I believe went wide left. And it could be just a coincidence that he missed both of them, or it could be more of a, he tried to make up for the first one and completely, shanked it. And he could turn into be a fine kicker. I mean, that's the important thing to remember. I don't want to go on a Tavecchio bashing tour. Matt Bryant played for the freaking Florida Tuskers before he played for us. He played for the Giants. He played for the Dolphins. I think he played for the Colts. Like, he played for all these, and the Buccaneers. Yeah. He was more well-known with the Buccaneers. But, the Florida Tuskers were in, like, the USFL or some no-name league. Like, he didn't just roll out of bed out of Baylor and be, I'm Matt Bryant, best kicker or 8th most accurate kicker in NFL history. Like, he had to get there. Yeah. Tavecchio is my age if he's 29. I think he's 29. But he's my age. Like, I couldn't imagine that pressure. I get pressure in daily life that would ruin me. I could imagine everybody watching me kick a freaking ball 50 yards.
Right.
So, like, he could turn into something. But like you said, this is a win now team. We are, I'd say, if you group the top 8, we are one of them. You don't want to have a problem at the kicking position, and we kind of have one. But luckily, these games don't count. And I will. That's all I'll say, because I could literally ramble on for another hour or so. Yeah,
exactly. But we'll have to save some of that for a future episode. But I was like, we need to preview the game, but we actually kind of opened the show with some preview talk, so I think we're pretty good there. I do want to give you a chance. He's Evan Birchfield, guys, at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Anything that you're working on right now that you'd like to plug?
Not necessarily. I do a Throwback Thursday article every Thursday. This week is Alfred Jenkins, who, the old-time fans will recognize. Last week was Alan Rossum, who, was a pretty good kick returner, one of the better ones in Falcons history anyways. What else? Nothing right now. When the regular season comes around, I'll do like fantasy articles. So if anybody's into fantasy football, and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm at, as you said, I'm at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. If you want to yell at me about how wrong my Matt Bryant take is, or you just want to, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely at him. Definitely
whatever.
at him with those takes, folks.
Yeah. I'm very vocal if you go on my timeline. But like I said, I'm a Falcons fan first. I just want to win, like you all do. So yeah, give me a follow, and I appreciate you having me on the show, though.
Oh yeah, no problem. No, I can't believe we didn't have you on here before.
Sorry, the first half, I didn't even know.
No, it's no big deal.
I was like, oh, so we're just talking, I
just super casually, yeah.
No, I prefer it that way.
Exactly. I get to drink beer on the show, so it's great.
Oh, see, I haven't seen you this whole time.
Yeah, no, it's a trick of how we do it, especially now that the live hangouts is no longer a thing, so that we have to get around it by doing this. But
you could see me.
Oh yeah, I can see you. And when you look at the show on YouTube, you'll see me. So don't worry. Yeah, the fans can see me. You just can't.
Talking about the chat, and I'm like, I don't see a chat.
Yeah, it's on the actual YouTube page.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, these guys.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, these guys are great. Everyone's nice. Aaron Freeman was here, I guess. So shout out to Aaron Freeman.
Okay.
Nice to see Aaron tuning into the Superior Show. I'm glad that he's seen the light. And on that note, guys, definitely do subscribe and like if you do like the content. On the topic of tomorrow's play-by-play, we're still trying to figure out if we can get a color person in here for that game, because if you just want me to call the game by myself for 3.5 hours, I'm sorry, I don't like you guys that much. So we'll see. I'll give you guys an update tomorrow on that one. But if not, we'll try again next week for the final game. Otherwise, I'll do a post game at least for that. So there'll be something tomorrow. Either way, but like I said, like and subscribe if you don't mind. We do appreciate that. I am Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter, inching closer to that 2,000 mark and followers. So if you guys haven't followed me yet, and if you're a regular on the show and you haven't followed me yet, that's just rude, right? So y'all should definitely hit that up too. But the show is at Falcoholic Live on Twitter. The site is the Falcoholic, where we have the best Falcons content bar none. So you're definitely going to want to check that out too. But Thank you again, Evan, for coming on. Appreciate you.
Of course.
And we will definitely try to get you back on here at some point during the regular season. And other folks, thank you for tuning in. We will see you either tomorrow or next Wednesday. And until next time, I'm Kevin. He's Evan. Man, I could get tripped up with that so easily.
Yeah.
We will see you guys in a little bit. Have a good night, folks.